I had Warren Sapp was one of my hosts with Rohan Marley. There's no way I could go to school at University of Miami. I for sure would have flunked and failed out of that school. I don't know how those guys do it. I'm a kid from Iowa. That was the first time I seen fancy cars up close. That's the first time I seen the yacht and all the things. We went to a party with Uncle Luke, stuff like that. That's out of my realm, thinking like something out of a movie. It was a great visit, awesome time, but for sure, be back home within a semester there. So that's how I didn't choose University of Miami.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
TNT All-Star Football Camp, organized by Hawkeye legends Tim Dwight and Tavian Banks, is an annual event designed to mentor and train young athletes. The camp focuses on students in grades 3 through 8, offering them a unique opportunity to learn from two of Iowa's most celebrated football figures. Location historically held in Des Moines, Iowa, camp provides comprehensive football training, emphasizing skill development, teamwork, and sportsmanship. The event is not only a platform for athletic development, but also serves as an inspiration for young athletes to pursue excellence on and off the field. This camp is free for the public. For more information and updates on upcoming camps, visit their Facebook page at facebook.com/allstarfootballcamp. Are we ready to rock?
Let's do it.
Rock and roll.
Right. Tonight, we are excited to have Tavian Banks, running back extraordinaire. His name is in the top 5 of most of the records at Iowa. Great guy. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really enjoy being here.
Glad you're
I
here.
love it. Love you guys, man. You're just obviously teammates and stuff, but just always growing up and being in Iowa and being able to live those things and be a part of that football team. And it's just something special all the time, man. So it's always great to connect and be with you guys and see former teammates and guys that are doing well. And you guys got this podcast going on. Just love to be on it.
You might have to answer the question, who is the fastest person on the team at that point too. So we'll get to that later though. Start a little controversy early. Nice. So you're from Bettendorf, right? Why don't you talk about growing up there and you started in sports and go there if you would.
Coming from Bettendorf, it was great growing up. I'm from the Quad Cities. All my family and relatives and everybody else from the Quad Cities, either from Davenport or Rock Island or Moline. My mom moved us from Rock Island to Bettendorf, me and my older brother, mainly to keep us out of trouble. We didn't get into too much trouble at all, but just, again, like Bettendorf, great education and just great with athletics. We knew we were pretty good athletes and we were going to try and do both things and do it well. So my mom moved us to Bettendorf. Again, just a great community that I grew up in, and it as growing up takes a village, and we had a great village back then too. Just great group of friends that I grew up around. Great community, not just like my mom, but people around me, from coaches to teachers to administrators to a lot of people that helped myself, but also just like the people around me and my friends and things like that growing up. So yeah, I just loved it growing up. It was a great place to grow up for sure.
At what point did you realize that you were a really gifted athlete? Was that really super early on? Were you like tearing up like PB football?
My brother is 4 years older than I am. He had the displeasure, I would say. He had to take me everywhere that he went. So I always had to play against my brother and his friends. 4 years older, I always had to compete against them. So it toughened me up a lot because you either sink or swim, and I wasn't sinking. It made me a better athlete earlier on because it made me think quicker, react quicker, do a lot of things faster and stuff like that. Or I would have to sit out if I didn't level or compete at that age and against my brother and his friends and stuff. But again, like just growing up, Bettendorf, we had a great community of competing. It was just like the culture that I grew up in. We won a lot there at Bettendorf, not just football, but in a lot of other sports and stuff too. It was the atmosphere and the culture around Bettendorf, a winning culture in a sense. So we always took things seriously and all our sports, and the friends I hung around with, just always competing at a high level.
There is something about that sibling rivalry, right? You hate that worse than anything in the world, letting your siblings beat you in anything. At least I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd always get these phone calls as my brother Robert was in high school, and he'd be like, "Oh, I broke this record of yours. I broke this record of yours." At some point, I was like, "Oh man, okay, you've done it. You got it. You got me. Okay, you've surpassed me." So, talk a little bit about, you were a football athlete and also soccer as well. Speak to both of those. Were you more into soccer, or was football more your first love?
I played basketball too. People forget that, but
But
yeah, I'm a pretty good basketball player too. Bettendorf was a soccer community, not just football. I didn't enjoy track as much. I didn't like just running just to run. Not anything against track or whatever case, but I didn't enjoy that much. And then it started competing against like soccer, which I really loved doing and playing a lot. Soccer was my first sport when I was little. My mom put me in 2 soccer leagues. It was the only thing that could calm me down. I would have soccer practices almost every day, and then games Saturday and Sunday on the weekend. So it was the only thing that would calm me down. People that know me, I used to be a hyperactive kid when I was growing up too. Those type of things like calm me down instead of back then they used to put kids on Ritalin and all that type of stuff. My mom refused to do that and just put me in sports. Again, soccer was the main one that I took to and gravitated towards. I loved it so much. And it gave me a lot of skills from vision and awareness, body control, all those type of things really helped me become a better football player in a sense, because the vision from soccer and the awareness helped me with being the running back.
Nice. What did you run in track? Which events?
I ran 100, 200, long jump, all the relays, 4x1, 4x2 back then. I ran 400, and I hated that, but I was really good at it too at the same time. Back then, you ran track for like middle school or whatever the case may be, and like for your school. And then there's Bettendorf Track Club back then too that we were running in when I was, I think 9, 10, and 11, somewhere around there. I did win, a national 400 meter race. I think it was in like Indianapolis that the one year I took second nationally in the 100 and 200, but it started to interfere with soccer. That was another reason I didn't continue running track.
You actually played Brion in high school in football too, right? No, soccer. You
Soccer,
played
though. Playing soccer.
Yeah.
And I'll attest to Bettendorf's soccer program is always excellent. I think we got you guys once.
Yes, you did. You probably did.
It was an upset.
Yeah, upset.
Yeah.
You know, I
Broke your leg or something. Yeah, you probably weren't playing.
Can you believe we still have the same coach? Coach Pennington is still the coach right now.
Really? No way.
Yeah. All these
Holy
years.
cow.
Yep. I know, man. He's still doing it. I'm proud of him, and he's still going. I don't even know what year this is. 40 years already. So, yeah. But just a great program, Bettendorf, with soccer and stuff. Like I was playing before they had state and all that type of stuff they have nowadays. They didn't have state back then, but we had a lot of tournaments and all those type of things we always competed in.
There was the Bettendorf tournament and the Muscatine tournament. I think those were the 2 big ones. And
yes,
I think we beat you in your Bettendorf tournament somehow. Yep. If you won or did well in those, there was no state championship, unfortunately.
No,
so it was like the old NCAA football. Everyone just claimed their own championship.
Yes, that was it. And then the Iowa games started to get popular back then too, when you had your club team, but it was just like your high school or whatever case team, it was still like all Bettendorf kids. Remember fond memories of playing in the Iowa games. Back then too, you didn't play like other kids around the state or anything like that. You only played your region or whatever it was.
Iowa.
Yeah. And then that's when the Iowa games is kind of like when you started to see kids from Des Moines or Des Moines teams or Sioux City. So that was really good that we got to do that too.
Yeah, that's right. The Des Moines teams played like in the fall during football.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they're like, we wouldn't have, I don't know what you would have done. What would you have done if you had to pick between soccer and football?
Football was king back then. There wasn't internet like there is now. You couldn't imagine all the stuff you can watch and see nowadays, like soccer and any sport. But back then, football was king. And I loved playing that. I figured I might have a chance to go professionally or try to at least and have beyond like college or whatever case. So that was another reason I chose football in a sense. Like back then they didn't have in soccer like the MLS league or any of that type of stuff going on like in the United States. So I figured I would probably have to go overseas if I tried to continue playing soccer and stuff. And then I'm just a kid from Iowa. I've never been anywhere like like in a sense like first time I got on a plane was going on my recruiting visit to Miami, as a matter of fact. Like I didn't think I would be ready or willing to go overseas and be a professional soccer player after college. So that was another reason I gravitated towards football. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, expound on that, what that would have been like to go professional in soccer. You played in a national team or something like that, if I remember.
So we won. They have this ODP stuff that goes on. It's pretty big nowadays too. Olympic Development Program. So I was a part of one of the first Iowa teams that won the regional tournament. And they have like Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, like all these states or whatever play in this big tournament. And I was part of the first Iowa team that won that tournament. You get selected to be on the regional team from that tournament. That was how I started getting national attention and recruiting and like all these colleges. I started getting letters also from overseas professional teams and stuff too. But at the same time, this was my junior year going into senior year, like summer and stuff in high school. And then the time where, like the Olympics and all those type of things are getting picked to go on the national team and things is when I was going to the University of Iowa. So the Hayden Fry like poo-pooed me from continuing my soccer career, I would say at that time too, at the same time. If that makes sense. So I couldn't continue playing soccer because I was going to the University of Iowa to play football on scholarship. And that was like how I ended playing soccer. I was going to University of Iowa. And then my senior year, I tore my shoulder playing football. So I had to have surgery. And so that summer would have been me going to national camps for soccer. But I didn't end up going because I hurt my shoulder and I was going to be out. This is how I also was going to redshirt my freshman year at the University of Iowa too, at the same time, because I hurt my shoulder. I was going to be out anyway. So all that happened in the same sense of the same summer and going to the University of Iowa at the same time.
That's a busy summer. Could you have not gone to college for soccer and then go right over? Was that a possibility, you think, or no?
Yes. I was getting letters and stuff like that to go overseas to play soccer, but we weren't really taking that seriously because we didn't know anything about overseas or getting on a plane to go there. So that wasn't something we were going to entertain. I was getting heavily recruited to play college like soccer at the same time, just the same thing I was getting recruited as in football. So I was getting from Clemson and South Carolina and like Indiana, like all these top soccer programs, they were recruiting me at the same time too to play college soccer.
Your mailbag must have been like this then, right? If you had all the football teams in America and all the soccer teams in America.
I still have them. Like they're in the boxes now. So I have all the recruiting letters and storage. There's still all my memorabilia and newsletters, all those type of things. I got them in these giant boxes that are in storage. I show them to my kids every once in a while. But yeah, there's a lot of them in there.
Was there soccer full ride or was it partial scholarships?
Yeah, soccer back then, you could get a full ride, but I think it was low numbers. There's only like 10 or something that could get a full ride at soccer back then. You know what I mean? And a lot of the other guys were like partial or walk-ons or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I was getting full ride scholarships to play soccer.
Did you ever entertain trying to play both?
The one school that was recruiting me to try and play both was South Carolina. The Gamecocks. They were trying to get me to come on a visit for both football and soccer at the same time. So that was the one school that was entertaining me trying to play both at the same time. But I don't know how that would work because soccer's played in the fall in college at the same time. So we didn't end up picking them as one of my recruiting visits.
I want to get to the different schools you went to too, but you also had probably one of the more famous high school games as a senior. When you did play City High, I was already at Iowa, but you and Tim had quite the battle. What do you remember from that contest?
It's great memory. Again, like we were ranked number 1 in the state, Bettendorf, and then coming to City High. I don't even know how that stuff works.
You had to do a road game.
We were number 1 in the state. We traveled to City High to play the quarterfinals or something like that.
Yeah, it was before the Dome. So
I remember vividly. We were down. It was 14-0 before anything. It was like we just got off the bus and it was already like 14-0. And I was like, oh my God, we got to get it going here. But we settled down and started playing better. I had some huge runs too. We were able to keep motoring along and pushing. We just outscored them, like in a sense. I mean, City High, like tremendous team, tremendous talent. Like from those teams, a lot of those guys went to University of Iowa too at the same time. A lot of D1 talent that was on City High team. So it was really great camaraderie. And obviously playing against Tim. We're here in Iowa. Tim was a grade lower than me. We didn't always compete, but I always knew of him. But it was great to see him do as well as he did in that game. Not as well as I did. That's the key part.
That was the game. It was whoever had the ball last and which of you had the ball last, because it was like long run from Tim, long run from Tavian, long run from Tim. It was insane. Where is the copy of this game? Because it hasn't popped up on YouTube or anything, and someone's got to have a copy.
I could probably send you one. People send it to me all the time.
It's impressive. Yeah. It's the best high school game I've ever been to. We probably had 10, 15,000 people there.
That was a lot for back then, too.
It was.
A lot of University of Iowa was there, a lot of the coaches and things like that, too. It was just a great atmosphere. It was great, like 2 programs at the peak. City High won the next 2, I think, state championships in football. I mean, it was just a great showing. A lot of those guys went to the University of Iowa from that team. So it's just a great thing to see, a great thing for Iowa, a great thing to be a part of. I was happy that we won, but I was just happy to be a part of that culture and that atmosphere for those games.
Was Jeff Nolting on your team at that point?
Yes. Just one of my good buddies, and we grew up. He was part of the posse that, like my high school buddies that when we grew up. Known Jeff, ever since kindergarten. So we've known each other all these years. One of my best friends growing up for sure. And then, he came to Iowa, and then he left and went to University of Nebraska for a little bit. And I don't remember if he came back or if he just stayed at the University of Nebraska. But just a tremendous person and great friend all those years growing up. And he was a punter, right? He played quarterback. He was our starting quarterback back then. Tremendous punter. Obviously, Hurley, you were better, but Jeff was pretty good too.
Definitely. Talk us through the football recruiting. When did that start? How and who you were talking to, and go through that journey.
Back then, I started getting letters locally from, like, it started probably in 6th grade, 7th grade. And I don't even know if that was legal, but I started, because like here in Iowa, when you go to these camps, coaches start to see you. I would get these mailers where you put your information, like your address, or like all like your weight, all those type of things, information back then. So I started receiving those kind of in 6th grade. And the first letter I got was for basketball from the University of Iowa, like a recruiting letter for them. But again, it started like 6th grade, started getting a lot more like in 7th grade. But definitely by like 8th grade, I was really getting a lot of letters and stuff too. And then freshman year, it just exploded more nationally and things like that too.
How do you keep a calm head and focus on playing with that kind of interest at that age? Like, how did you deal with that?
I didn't really pay attention to it, to be honest with you. Like it was like something that just came in the mail, and not to brag or boast or anything like that, but the way I grew up, I didn't know anything different. I always got letters. I always was getting recruited. It didn't faze me at all because it is the only thing I knew. I didn't know anything different. My mom, me level, my brother, family members, friends I was around, they didn't treat me or do anything different. I was the same that I always been. So it wasn't anything different in my world. I didn't see anything different ever growing up. I always, like, I started signing autographs in 8th grade. So I just grew up doing those things. It never fazed me. So I didn't know anything was going to be different than that.
Mom, I rushed for 250 yards in that game. I don't care. Clean your room.
I don't think I ever told her. And to be honest with you, I only knew rushing stuff if people told me. My teammates and stuff told me, or my coach or something. I knew, like, high school, I rushed for 314 yards one game. I knew it because my teammates were telling me. I had long yards and long touchdowns, so I knew I had a good average or a lot of yards that game, but I never really paid attention to the actual yardage. Somebody else would probably tell me, and then I would know. But other than that, it's not bragging. It's what I grew up doing, so I didn't know anything different. If I had 175 yards, it was fine, and 3 touchdowns. If I had 300 yards, I'm not surprised because that's what I grew up doing. I didn't know anything different from it.
That's amazing.
With your brother going through recruiting as well, he was at Southern Illinois. So
Yep.
did that influence your decision making at all, or how you pick schools?
Yeah, my brother, he was a great athlete too. He went and played basketball at Nyack, like before he went to Southern Illinois.
Oh, okay.
So he's a good basketball player at the same time too. He went and played at Nyack, and then he got recruited at the same time, like playing football at schools, and ended up going to Southern Illinois and wide receiver there. Played there 3 years, I believe, and then he went on to play in the Canadian League a little bit and stuff too.
Quad City Steamrollers, baby.
Right? Yep.
That's
played
right.
the two.
That's how I knew him, because we were on the team together.
Quad City Steamrollers. So just, again, like his knowledge and background and things, like he was a great help. Also at the same time trying to pick schools or talking to coaches or being down there. And I got to go down there to Southern Illinois and just visit and see the campus and football program. Another running back that played at Southern, Greg Brown, who also went to Bettendorf. He really good friends with my brother and just family and stuff like that too. Just being able to get knowledge from those guys was tremendous.
So were you always looking at Iowa, or were you?
I was never an Iowa fan. I was a big Notre Dame fan growing up. I love Notre Dame. I wanted to go to school there, everything. Notre Dame came late to the party, and I really hated it for that, and I hated them for that too. That's why I didn't end up going to Notre Dame. But Iowa, I was never a fan of Iowa. Things aligned And when I say fan, I didn't think I was going to go to school there. I enjoyed watching teams that had like electric players and stuff. Not saying Iowa didn't have that, but like other schools really had. I grew up watching Notre Dame's Tim Brown and Miami players and things like that, guys that were electric. I really enjoyed those teams more. And then me, I thought could be electric player just like that. I didn't think I would be able to do that at the University of Iowa, if that makes sense. Yep. I wasn't a big Iowa fan at the time. What happened with Iowa is I went on my visit, and a great group of guys that I was with, like the guys that I'm still friends to this day. We're on the trip, and from Rodney Filer to Rich Willock to Kerry Cooks, Damon Gibson, Rashad Carter, like all my boys are on the same recruiting trip. It just felt like home, just felt great being there. So that was one of the tipping things. And then also, like back then, like nowadays, everybody goes to school earlier. You graduate early, go at the semester, you do all those types of things. Back then, there wasn't anybody that really did that. But Iowa had a program where you could go to school. So I went to school in the summer, and they had this PSP program. I was going to redshirt anyway, and I had to start rehab that summer, like 93. And that was a big reason I chose Iowa, because I could get on campus and do rehab and things like that too at the same time. So that was great that I was able to do that. But I ended up rushing anyway. But it was just great to be on campus. A lot of the guys that, again, like I was in recruiting visit, they also did the PSP program too. So we were all there early and on campus and already got things going and started. But that was a main big part to it.
Where did you take your visit, and where else?
So University of Miami, I went to the University of Washington and then the University of Nebraska. The last visit that I canceled was South Carolina. Back then, you were doing recruiting visits during basketball season. So I was missing weekends and stuff like that. We had pretty good like basketball team back then too. I don't know, like almost tired of the recruiting trips at the same time. And then I thought like I was going to go to university. I might as well just cancel the last trip. To be honest, I loved Washington. I think I committed to Washington when I was out there. Again, like just a kid from Iowa. That was the first time I ever saw mountains and the stadiums on a lake. It was just beautiful. It's something like out of a movie. I really enjoyed it out there. But at that time too, like games and stuff, they weren't guaranteed to be on TV. The University of Washington was under investigation at the same time. If you remember back then, you didn't know if they were going to go on probation or any of that type of stuff. I didn't end up like obviously committing or decommitting or whatever you call it nowadays, going there because of that also. University of Miami was awesome. Gosh, I had Warren Sapp was one of my hosts with Rohan, I think that's how you say it, Marley. But again, I was like, there's no way I could go to school at University of Miami. I for sure would have flunked and failed out of that school. Because I don't know how those guys do it. Like Miami, again, I'm a kid from Iowa. That was the first time I seen fancy cars up close. That's the first time I seen like a yacht and all the things. I think we went to a party with Uncle Luke, stuff like that. That's out of my realm thinking and even knowing things. This is again like something out of a movie. It was a great visit, awesome time, but I was like, there's no way I'd fail and for sure be back home within a semester there. So I didn't choose University of Miami. Nebraska, it was good. I went on the visit and I remember going in the stadium. It looked like it was right next to a cornfield. I just didn't get the vibe that I had when I was at Iowa and stuff. And it weird, but I didn't enjoy like looking out, and it was like looking at cornfields next to the stadium. You know, I don't know if they're really like right next to the stadium. close proximity where I could see them. So I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this. But again, University of Nebraska, great program that they had back then. I think they won 2 national championships in that span. Kudos to them. But yeah, I obviously chose the University of Iowa.
Who recruited you at Iowa?
Oh man, it was late Bobby Elliott, Coach Elliott, great recruiter. He was one of the main reasons I went to University of Iowa. Back then, they wrote you handwritten notes. I always received that stuff from him. Just great game. Came and watched me play basketball during the season. Came at home visit, all those things. Just great conversation, great recruiter. When I got to Iowa, just a great coach, even though he didn't end up being my position coach, but just a great person. That's what I really enjoyed from the University of Iowa. It was definitely Coach Elliott. On my visits, I had Tommy Knight and Bo Porter were my hosts. Or whatever the case. Yep, hosts. And they were just great guys, but really they also did a great job of recruiting me. They would write me letters and notes and stuff like that too. And I don't even know if they're supposed to do that or not. It just felt like a great place to be. It felt like they were going to take care of me. And it seemed like the guys really wanted me to be a part of the University of Iowa program. So that was just a great feeling also at the same time.
I remember Coach Elliott was at the Bettendorf tournament.
Yeah.
Because he stopped out and said hi. And I was like, oh, wow, he's really trying to recruit me really well to be a walk-on. But or maybe he's here for Tavian too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Coach Elliott, sorry he never got his opportunity to be the head coach. I was hoping at one point he would have been next head coach, but he had the cancer scare.
For sure.
But he would have been a phenomenal head coach, especially for Iowa at that time. I'm sad that he didn't get that opportunity.
I think everyone would have said, yeah, absolutely, he's the next person. He's a great guy, great coach. He deserves that chance. But things just didn't work out.
Absolutely.
Let's go into your transition from high school into your first year of college. You come in, you're redshirting, you got to do some rehab. Talk about how that went for you.
Transition. It was tough, I would say, class and things like. I think that was a year or two. I had like a 7 a.m. stupid, like a math. I think some type of math class or whatever the case may be. So I ended up falling asleep in class. I was just trying to learn different things. When we had winter conditioning and early rising, I would have that 7 a.m. stupid math class. So just the transition from that, just the schoolwork and things like that, wasn't the greatest, I would say, in a sense, but also learning how to handle all that type of stuff and being able to do it, not playing and things like that. Yes, we were practicing and stuff, but it was hard not playing out there in a sense. I was used to playing on Saturday or whatever it was, Fridays, or being able to play the games and stuff. That was another adjustment. So it was adjustment, just being a practice like player in a sense, not being able to play in the games. That took a toll on the mental part and things too. So that, and then the schooling, just different, just learning how to get with tutors and all those things. It hit like a Mack truck, like in a sense. But again, like I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was a fun ride, learning how to deal with all those things and become better in the end.
Would you have preferred, had you had the choice, if your shoulder wasn't hurt, to have played the first year?
Oh yeah, I would have enjoyed it. Like just like Timmy, I would have enjoyed returning kicks and punts or any other type of special plays when I was younger. And that would have been just tremendous. I played freshman because they were starting to do little packages. I would enjoy playing for sure. But back then, I didn't start lifting weights until my senior year of high school. My junior year, first time I ever lifted weights. But we started like off-season program, lifting. Wasn't even on campus, but great people that were leading that. I wasn't strong in the weight room. That redshirt year gave me a boost in the weight room, get stronger and being able to do those type of things. So I was glad of that because you had to be in the weight room more. You weren't playing. I think we lifted 4 times a week or during the season. Most team only lifting twice when you have a lot more time. I did enjoy that aspect of it, just being able to get stronger and prepare for the years or whatever the case to come.
Yeah, I think there is that part of the team that travels and plays and all that. There's a camaraderie that happens at home during the weekends, and then the camaraderie that happens on the road as well, I think. So that's a harder transition, right? You played since you were 6.
Yeah.
You're used to those things and preparing. It's a different transition. I think a lot of the guys we talked to have through that, like we showed up and it was not what they were used to, and had to adapt.
And I didn't particularly like it either. Like back then, too, on the game days, you weren't on the sideline. They had you sit somewhere else. You were almost not a part of the team. You were sitting in the stands. I think the end zone or something like that. You were. So I didn't particularly enjoy that either. I think there are a couple games that we didn't even go to the actual game because I was just like, oh, I mean, we're not even on the sideline or anything like that. We're like the students in the C section or whatever the case may be. But I didn't enjoy that aspect of it too. I'm assuming that all that stuff has changed by now. It seems like there's a ton of people on the sideline nowadays. I just remember that's one thing I didn't enjoy about redshirting or the people that were out and stuff like that. I always felt like they should be a part of the team and enjoy celebrating that way with your team.
All right, so let's go into got through winter conditioning.
Yeah.
Got through your math class. What did you end up doing over summers?
I always stayed in town. I never went home. I went home when we always had that little break. It might have been like a week or a week and a half or something like that. Go home during that little break and then be back on campus because I did those odd-end job things too. And then I always did like summer school too because I was thinking down the road of being able to try at least to play in the NFL. I know that going to summer school and all this type of stuff was going to have a projection of me, like by the time I became a senior type of thing, that I would be able to graduate in the fall of '97. When I was a senior, I wouldn't have to return to University of Iowa. I could just concentrate on the NFL combine training. So that was another reason why I always stayed and did summer school.
Let's talk about, you split time with Cedric. How is that with you guys personally and filling into that role? What was that like for you?
It was great in a sense. Me and Ced are great friends to this day. Ced never looked different upon me or gave me terrible advice or didn't share knowledge with me. Not one time in all our years at the University of Iowa. Ced was a great mentor, great friend. It was great at just speaking his truth and stuff all the time to me and showing me different things and, hey, maybe block this way or, hey, look at this run this way. Or he was always great and helpful. I couldn't have had a better mentor in a sense. Ced, what I learned from Ced is just like he was always ready to go. He was always ready, game mode, ready to play. And it didn't matter who you played against, didn't matter what the opponent was or any of that type of stuff. Ced was always ready to play. And I admired that. I always looked up to that and emulated that aspect from him. So I always enjoyed that and taking that from him for sure. So I always, again, enjoy all the years and all the mentoring that I got from him all these years. And again, we're still great friends to this day. Still enjoy law, the law, if the people that know that. So it's just a great teammate and a great friend at the same time.
What's the law?
Said that's one of his nicknames.
Another one I don't know about? It was said
Law.
Doogie, right? With Doogie Shaw, right?
Said law.
The
law. Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk about some of your best on-field memories. What do you remember? Like, what was a great memory that sticks in your head?
I always tell people this. I think it was maybe a sophomore. Okay, so we went to Penn State. I think this is the first year Penn State was in the Big Ten. And we played at Penn State. I think I was a sophomore, something, maybe a redshirt sophomore. Okay, so I was just on special teams a lot and stuff.
94, yeah.
Okay, yep. So Penn State ended up there. They won the national championship that year. But they had a lot of first-round picks off of that team and from Penn State. But I remember we lost 60 or whatever it was to like 12 or something stupid like that.
It was bad.
It was just horrible. And then I remember looking out and I was like, oh my God, this is like real. This team is like legit NFL prospects. We look like little kids out there. We look like a little high school team playing against the big dogs. And I always remember that damn nifty lion roar was going off it was like all day that damn lion was going off. And I was on special teams, so I was out there and they scored like 60-something points. I was on kickoff return and stuff. So I was just out there all damn day too at the same time. I just remember that lion going off all day long.
That day.
Us looking, I remember to a T, like we just looked like a high school team out there compared to them. Like they looked like grown-ass men out there, and they were just whooping our tails at the same time. And then a couple years later, like we were able to come back and we played at Penn State. I think they were like number 5 in the country or something like that at the time. And what was I? It's just, yeah, I forget what, maybe I was a junior.
Yep, you're junior, 96.
Okay. And we beat them at Penn State. I had a pretty good game. I just remember the dynamics of a couple years earlier, we looked like a high school team out there getting our tails whooped. And a couple years later, we were able to go back and beat them at Penn State. We didn't hear that lion go off all day. So that's my biggest fond memory, how college can change just like that. You can be the big dog one day, and then a couple years, you're not as big or whatever case. We got better. We had a younger team and stuff like that at the time where a lot of our talent was younger. So a lot of those guys are up older and to produce a lot more too.
Same thing with Ohio State, right? You go there, be almost as bad, probably worse actually at Ohio State. And then next year, it's a competitive game, fourth quarter, right? It is crazy. It's just difference in 1 year.
Oh yeah, just nuts. Being part of the Big Ten, it was week in and week out. You never know. Like 1 year you beat Indiana by 40. Next year we win by 14-10 or whatever it was. So you just never knew what was going to happen week by week.
I think it was interesting to see too when you mentioned Indiana, guys like Antoine Randall and those that could really change the dynamic of a whole game, right? It's like you have really talented people that could tip the scales in their favor, or at least make it more competitive to that degree.
Oh, yeah.
The question I have for you is, I think you said back in the day that you really didn't ever have to run full speed because you were like, I can run 3/4 speed and beat them, so why would I run full speed? Which I thought was amazing, which I've never had that problem. And I guess for me, as a running back, when you see a play and you see it open up and you're making your decision where to cut and like that. So can you walk through that of just like getting the football, you notice what's going on, and walk through that for me if you would?
To be honest with you, I always grew up studying game changers like Raheem Ishmael from Notre Dame, Desmond Howard, and guys like that were just game changers. So I always tried to emulate. I used to tape college football games on the weekend and rewatch them on Sundays. I really wasn't watching pro football back then when I was growing up. I was a big college fan. So I always wanted to emulate that electricity. When I was running, I always wanted to score a touchdown. I always thought whatever I had to do to get open in the open field, and then I would outrun you to the goal line. So that was my main goal every time I touched the ball. It was to figure out how I could get open space and then outrun somebody to the goal line. So that was always my mentality. I know that sometimes I wouldn't run to the correct hole, but I always did that because I saw something else in my vision. I would beat somebody else to the corner or whatever it is and be able to outrun somebody else. So that was always in my head when I was running the ball. The play is supposed to go to this hole, but I didn't always necessarily do that because my mentality was I wanted to score or have a big run or be electric all the time. So that was, I would say, gift and a curse, because there were some plays where I missed the hole because I was looking at other things. I missed the wide open hole that was supposed to go up in the middle because I was looking at something else where I could have broke out and the guy barely clipped me or they happened to tackle me. I know I drove some of these coordinators mad. For the most part, they were happy with me because I would have a bigger play with something else.
So you just saw the game at a slower speed. That's amazing.
Yes.
You were like, okay, this is the hole, but I'm seeing this opportunity over there.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the will and the belief that I'm gonna.
I trusted my legs, speed and elusiveness and quickness. I trusted that more than somebody else being able to tackle me or get a hand on me. So that's what I always relied on. It worked for me all the years I was playing football. It always worked. So I never ran into anything different. Even when I got to the NFL, I was still doing the same thing. I just happened to get injured. I was still picking how to run and where to run. As you play a lot of football, whatever defense is giving you, the backside, there might only be this player that's there, or front side, okay, there's only going to be two on this side. All I got to do is get past this one and then juke this other person. Then I'm home free. I always thought of all those things too at the same time.
And so you were setting up moves 2 and 3 in advance then. You were like, all right, I know I got this. Yep. Then I've got to get to do this and that.
And to be honest with you too, that's where soccer came in, because like in soccer, you dribble with a ball at your feet, but you got to look up to be able to pass to your teammate or score or shoot. So all those years for me playing soccer gave me the vision that I had in football. I was able to look out and try and project or whatever the case may be, because like in soccer, you got to pass it on. Somebody's running or they're going to be cutting or a back cut and get the ball to them. But in football, I was just carrying the ball, visualize what somebody else might do and then do something opposite of that. And then I would be in the clear. But again, learned all that playing soccer all those years for me.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be on your intramural soccer team, which was fun. Hey. I didn't really play soccer that much, but it was fun to watch you play that game as well. I remember you breaking away and then you'd rip this opposite footed kick at the corner of the post. You could see the talent and vision there. And Brian too, all you guys that had played soccer before. It was kind of an eye-opening experience for me to watch that different game and the skills that you guys had.
World champs football team.
I know. Yeah. I got to send you that. Kevin Casper, good buddy too, but he always sends it. Like, we still have the photo that was taken of us winning the championship or whatever.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yep. Still got that photo.
I'm surprised they let us play. Some of those things are like pretty intense, like athletic things with really differential in the competition. So it sounds like a recipe to get hurt that way.
Even back then, you had guys that thought they were really good soccer players. They were playing against football players that used to play soccer or whatever it is. Like, that's a recipe for disaster too, because they're gonna go super hard and try to prove a point. Or same thing happened in basketball when you're playing intramurals and stuff too. Like, I don't want to poo them, but it's like the regular students, like, they're trying to get their just due and bring it to the football players, like, in a sense. But it was just, again, incredible. I love the intramural aspect of it and being able to do that. And the University of Iowa, like the football program, allowed us to do that too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I couldn't believe it. Like, terrible idea for us.
Yeah, what are you guys doing? Wait, what the hell?
I'm assuming in this NIL stuff and everything, I'm sure they don't allow a lot of that stuff to go on anymore.
Yeah, that's funny. In one of those games, I was running down the field, and this kid came up and was trying to like do one of these things to me. And I saw the thing unfolding, and I'm like, all right, I could drop my shoulder and I could put this kid out pretty easily. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, all right, I don't want to hurt the guy. So he comes and he just bounces like 4 foot off me, not realizing what was going to happen. And I laughed because I was like, you could have gotten laid out for 8 feet instead of 4. But just that mentality of, I'm going to come in hard. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if you know what you're messing with right now.
Oh yeah.
And a football player playing soccer too, right? So it's probably like even more of a mentality of, okay, this is not my game. But,
right. You did pretty good, Nick. I was impressed.
We just ran around and didn't hurt anybody, so I don't think I did anything other than that. But yeah, wonder if I should have played soccer as a kid, but didn't have that opportunity in high school, which is funny to think about back then. But such a big sport all over the place.
I tell parents to get their kids in soccer as soon as possible. It translates into a lot of other sports, and it does a lot of wonders for balance, coordination, vision, agility. It does a lot of things that translate to a lot of other sports. Even if they don't stick with soccer, it's a great thing to start out as one of the first sports that a lot of people play. A lot of Americans, or whatever case, everybody plays soccer when they're little, in a sense. We just can't keep Americans playing soccer as they get older.
Talk to us about any good Hayden Fry stories you have.
Hayden, again, like, this great storyteller. Like, I was a witness to their listening and things like that. But I never really had one-on-one conversations with Hayden back then either. We didn't really have the greatest camaraderie relationship type thing either at the same time. So I was a part of listening to the stories he was telling and the group chatter and the teams, but we never really had one-on-one conversations. I don't really have a story that he told me personally. I was just part of the whole group.
When we talked to Sherman, I was surprised too. He said something similar, and I thought they were tied at the hip and had constant conversation. He just wanted to know how the team was doing.
Like, Hayden had his guys he's probably talked to, and I know he was a big Texas guy. Like, he had a conversation with all those guys, like, all the time. But there wasn't any one-on-one conversations and stuff that I had all my years. But also, I always thought, like, we got Hayden too, like, at the end of his coaching career. Like, to me, he wasn't really coaching like that. It was more of like all the assistants. He was great storyteller and motivation and all those type of things.
If you did, we were getting in trouble probably. It's funny to hear you say that. Yeah, because I think it was those things where you had your really close relationships with your coach, yes, and then you had a general with him, and I guess there was that respect factor too that he, I think, commanded that part and was, it was more of the leader of everything, and everybody else did the boots on the ground kind of thing.
I remember him sitting up in that tower during practice and stuff. Yeah, obviously legendary coach and stuff like that. But I think a lot of us, he had him at the end of his coaching career. To me, it wasn't like coaching like that, like in a sense. Obviously, probably coaching with the staff and not really individually talking to us or to me for different things. Because I was more or less with the position coach and our coordinator, Donnie P., that I had more interaction with.
Did he make a home visit, did you say?
Yes. Yep. Did make a home visit with Coach Elliott. It was good. I don't even remember what the home visit was. He came also to my high school during basketball season. Like, he came and watched me during basketball practice, which I really enjoyed too. It might be because he's here in Iowa, but it seemed like he made time to do those type of things. Not every head coach came to practice or a basketball game, but Hayden made the time to do those things too.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, you realize the time constraints on these coaches. They're preparing all the time for the next week, watching the film, grading. They've got these relationships they're building with kids that are recruits. There's a whole PR piece where they're out raising money for the school and high clubs, and then the media part of it. It's a kind of consuming thing, right? We saw our coaches' kids as much as they did probably too. It's interesting to think about all these different relationships of Hayden jumping on a plane, going to your house or Texas to see those guys and the different recruits.
Oh yeah, I have tremendous respect for a lot of these coaches. I coached at University of Louisville. It's a lot. It's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of families. It's a lot of kids. And that's just one aspect of it, let alone coaching, game planning, and film breakdown, recruiting visits, recruiting weekend, camps and clinics. It's tough on families. It's tough, like growing up. A lot of coaches are different, the way they coach, like the head coaches and things like that. You might have like a drill sergeant. You might have somebody that's more family friendly. You just never know what's going to happen. But again, tremendous respect for the profession, and it's tough. It's a lot of rewarding. They make really good money, but all that comes with a cost too at the same time. A lot of families, a lot of kids grow up not being able to see their dad or be a part of it like they would take more time or whatever the case may be. But again, everybody's different. All coaching staffs aren't the same. But again, I just give kudos to people that do it and continue to do it. But it's a tough road for sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that.
When did things slow down for you? Or was it like, I got this year one, like your redshirt freshman year? Do you feel like you were ready, or did it take a year or two before you're like, okay, now I got it?
I never felt like I didn't get it. I always felt like I was ready to play. I just didn't get the opportunity all the time to do that or showcase that. I felt like when I was in the games, I showcased what I could do all the time. And again, not all coaches get it right. I think there should have been more packages and things like that. We started doing it more my junior year, getting more of a spread offense and all these type of things for us. But we should have been doing that a long time ago. A lot of the pieces that we had at the University of Iowa, a lot of guys went on to play in the NFL, like off the teams, and guys that weren't even starters played long careers in the NFL. They could have been doing that in college too at the same time. That's what I mean by just wish things could have been better, just being able to put more pieces in place and do those things. But I always felt like I was ready to play and showcase my talents.
That transitions to your senior year. Cedric graduates.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that season? I know there's a lot of ups and downs in that, but
yeah, guys, it was time. I always felt like I had a good career. Every time I was in there, if Cedric was hurt or whatever, I rushed for 150 and 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then I would go back to the bench. So I was just like, okay, I just beat Penn State, and then I'm back on the bench. I never really liked that aspect. Again, like I always knew I was going to have my senior year to really showcase what I could do. I always felt like I could do that anyway because I was already doing that my whole career. So it wasn't anything. And I think the people like you guys and stuff, like people at Iowa and my teammates and stuff, like you guys seen it all the time. Like you've seen it in practice, in games. So I don't think anybody was ever shocked or anything like that because it's what I always did anyway. Being able to become a Heisman candidate, I was already expecting to do all those things. So I wasn't shocked, and I don't think it was anything different from the people that were around me and the guys that knew me, the locker room, the coaches, and the players. So I was just ready. I was grateful that I had a great senior year. Injuries happened. I had a couple nicks and things like that happened during the season. And Sherman got hurt and things like that too. So we just took a nosedive there at the middle of the season. But again, we were one of the top offenses in the country, and we were humming there for a while. Michigan took our sales out a little bit. We should have had that game. I think we gave them their national championship on that game
Yeah.
when they came back and beat us. I think that took their season the other way. I just imagine if we would have won that game, our season might have been a little bit different. I got happy for the senior year that I was able to get and do those things. But at the same time, I was ready to play in my younger years too. If you look through the film, I was doing the same things. I just had more opportunities when I became a senior and the starter full time.
Was winning the Heisman something on your radar? Was that something you wanted or desired at all, or was it just?
Oh yeah, I always felt like I could be a candidate, and to be honest with you, I wanted to go to New York, just to be able to go to New York and be wherever the Heisman thing. I think it was New York at the time, or whatever. But to be able to go, just be a finalist or whatever case, I always wanted that. And that was one of my goals to try to accomplish when I was in college. I really felt like I could do it if I had the opportunity to always be on the field. Like I always felt like my talents would take care of itself, or what I could show and do would take care of itself. And then it would be on a national or a greater level in a sense. So the rest of the world would be able to see that, yes, I was doing it before, but now I can do it more often because I'm the actual starter all the time. I always felt like I would have an opportunity to be an All-American or a Heisman candidate if I was able to be on the field more often.
Yeah, I think some part of that too was maybe coaching philosophies back then where it was almost like I want to say militant, but it was you show up, you do this, you act this way. Yep. And if that doesn't mesh with your personality, then it's not as good a fit. Where I think you were a competitor, you had the skills. I think your personality was a little more laid back than maybe Cedric was. And that was a knock against you. And I don't know, that's a miss, I think, to some degree. You have 130 kids that not everybody's going to be the same.
Right. Yes.
They all can compete in different ways. And I think it made me just think of when we did the team photo, right? You and was it Plez that were like, you look to the side. I was like, okay, that's just Tavian. Right. He's funny. He's more of a laid back guy. Yes. I don't know if that resonated with the coaches. I don't think they were like, they're like, oh, he's not taking this serious. In reality, you really were. You just did it in a different way.
Absolutely. I think the same thing, because I wasn't yelling or screaming about playing time or going to transfer. I showed up with a smile, cracking jokes, and having a great time. I wasn't mad because I only got 5 snaps that game or whatever. Like nowadays, obviously, kids get bent out of shape, or then you can just transfer. But back then, I didn't see that as something I wanted to do. I enjoyed being at Iowa, enjoyed playing on the team and stuff. I didn't feel like causing ruckus. I always felt my time was going to come. I felt like I would be able to go on to the next level. If I got invited to the NFL Combine, I felt like I would still be able to show my talents. I felt like all I needed was an opportunity to do that. So I always felt one way or the other, somebody was going to give me the opportunity to shine. So I never felt like I needed to be uptight or be a bad teammate. I always felt being a good teammate and good person and went a long way. I think it did a little, not like damage, but I felt if I was angry or in coach's office or something like that, it might have been different, maybe, like in a sense. Maybe they might have made more adjustments or rushed to do things a little bit differently, but I don't know. It might have been the opposite. Hey, I don't want to listen to this, and we'll get you out of here or something. Like who knows how it would have went, like in a sense. But me, as you guys know, I'm more laid back. I'm not a big rah-rah guy. I'm not going to do those types of things. I always felt like my talents would show. I felt the way I played the game would always show. I always felt like I would always do the right things at the right time in the game. So I always felt like that's what you should be judged on, what you're doing in the game. So I always felt like I did great things in the game.
Yeah. The great coaches get the different personality piece and let people be who they are and not force that kind of general across the board thing.
Yeah, we can go into next level, how the combine, and
yeah.
did you go to any Senior Bowl or anything like that?
No, they tried to get me to go to the Senior Bowl. I went to California and trained. We played in the Sun Bowl. So I started training in January right away. During training, I was going pretty hard, as everybody does for combine training. I had tweaked my hamstring just a little bit back then. But it happened to be when the Senior Bowl was going on or just about to start. I didn't want to go to the Senior Bowl with a tweak like hamstring. That's another reason why I didn't play in the Senior Bowl or any of those other bowl games, because I just wanted to save it and be ready for the NFL Combine. So I kept humming away and sure everything was ready to go for the Combine.
And so why don't you talk a little bit about the Combine? Did you have any, I know some people have weird interviews with teams, like that experience. Did you have any of that stuff?
Yeah, like I was projected pretty high. I was projected first round. So I had interviews with the Bears and Atlanta Falcons and these things. I remember, gosh, who was New Orleans Saints? Who was the coach there? Mike Ditka. He was an interesting guy. And for me, a kid coming from Iowa, we don't have pro teams here. To me, it's like the stars of the stars. Like when we got to NFL Combine, this is the first time you saw real coaches that you've seen growing up, like on the sidelines, on TV. It was a big deal to me. Oh my God, there's such and such or whatever head coach and like manager or whatever is going on. So it was really not like you're starstruck or anything like that, but it's just holy crap. Like you're really here now, like in a sense. So that's like the thing too, like when you interview with some of these teams, they sit you like you're in a spotlight and you're like in the middle of the room and all the coaching staff is behind all these seats and everything like that. So you're looking at him like, oh my God, there's a coordinator that I've seen since I was 5 years old. There's the head coach, Marty Schottenheimer, every Sunday on TV. Now he's talking to me. So it was like eye-opening in a sense, but also it was just a great experience to be a part of that. The combine was just fine. I didn't enjoy it. I felt like a cattle call, like in a sense. You walk around with shirt off. You got like these doctors poking and prying you and bending your elbow where it shouldn't be going. It wasn't enjoyable like that, like in a sense, because I just felt, almost like a piece of meat, like in a sense. You're in line and they call you, got your number on you. The whole experience before you go out on the field when you're with the doctors and the interviews, just I'm not particularly fond of it. Like in a sense, I wish they could do it a little bit different if they could, but I'm sure it's totally different by now. Everybody's used to it. But again, like back then, it's just, again, a kid, small town kid from Iowa. And this is the first experience seeing the guys that you've seen on TV growing up and all these stars. It's just a different type of experience. They had the Cybex machine where you test your leg muscles. So you had to do that one day, takes your legs out. So I don't even know why they were doing that back then. So I didn't enjoy that part of it because it's really like an endurance type of test on your muscles for your legs and stuff. They also got the Wonderlic test or something like that. I don't even know if it's still called that. I don't even know why they do that because it has nothing to do with like football, really. You can just look at the film and stuff. And then if you want to really test somebody and their knowledge or whatever the case may be, you just be asking them or bring them into your organization and do it that way. I don't think you have to take that at the combine. There's a ton of people that aren't really great test takers or anything like that would probably bomb the test. So this all goes into the same pot of, I'm not a scout or anything like that in years of NFL scouting or whatever. Maybe there's a metrics for the Wendelick test for all those years and things like that. But again, I don't know like how it relates to football playing. So again, I didn't enjoy that aspect of it either. Again, like on the field stuff is okay. In a sense, you're there catching passes from somebody that's never thrown footballs to you. Are running and all those type of things are fine. It's just, again, being on the spotlight and things like that too. And again, it's not anything different from like we played with 80,000 people in the stands and stuff like that. But it's also, okay, you got Eric Bieniemy who's really giving you the drills. Another person that won the Heisman or whatever, stuff like that. It's just the psyche of it is different. And again, this is way back then. Now everybody's used to it. You grow up around it, and it's more accessible for everybody. But the drills and everything too, I would think that they would come up with new drills or more drills than the same ones that like I ran like way back then. Like, where's the involvement of the game of football and the tests that are being run? Like we're still not evolved from that. We're still testing the same things that we tested 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So you would think that they would be coming up with different or more type of testing.
That is an interesting point. I guess I've dove a little bit into some of the training, and you had your own training facility for a while, right? Like force on the ground and some of those things that they could do. That is interesting to think of. Yeah, what is football and what movements and what force and wherever else that you would need to apply to get those things to be good at that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. There's a ton of different stuff that you could be measuring that's like actual football related. And I know there's so many different things now that you could be measuring that, again, would relate to football wise, that there's so many metrics and devices and being able to put probes and all those type of things on somebody nowadays. That's the type of stuff they should be doing at the combine, I think. But you're able to compare stuff still that Deion Sanders did back in the day to modern players right now, because you're still doing the same test. I would believe that by now something should have evolved in that testing part.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably an old boys league to some degree, right?
Absolutely.
Things have been that way for a long time, and they don't necessarily need to do that. You say half the guys probably make it, right? Their hitting rate is probably what, half or at least less?
Probably half. I don't know. Is there like 200 that go to the combine?
Feels like it, yeah.
So probably half, that actually make the team or make the squad.
And if you were like Moneyball, you mean?
Like maybe the NFL's due for their own Moneyball type thing where you start looking at different metrics to find the talent of guys that are overlooked in the traditional scouting approach. No one's been that team to step up and start looking at players differently and say, I'm going to grab this guy, 6th round pick, but we know we can fit him in and he has this ability to tackle or this ability to find holes. He doesn't have the 40 time. He doesn't have the shuttle time, but somehow he gets 3-4 yards every carry, and that's hidden in the numbers. But so maybe that's an opportunity for some team to dissect the past success stories. And Nick and I have talked about this, and other guys, like there's guys in the league that you're just like, they don't have those metrics, but they're successful.
Yes,
they figured out how to be successful.
Yes, because there's football players. There's guys that are gamers that are terrible at tests. You know what I mean? I went in the 4th round, but There's people that go in the 6th round that are terrible at combine testing, but they're football players. But they shouldn't be penalized because 40 time is terrible. You know what I mean? Look at the film. Whether they do their whole career. Like they've been doing it. It's not going to change. A lot of people get drafted by the right team and the right situation and the right coaching staff. That has a lot to do with a lot of people's success in the NFL. If you get picked by the wrong team and wrong coaching staff and you got 3 offense coordinators in 3 years and like things like that have a lot to do with it also.
Let's leave Robert out of this, please.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He had some coaches from 1965 that were teaching him to block like this.
I know, man.
Yeah.
So how did draft day, did you have ideas of where you might end up or to which team?
Yes, I was at home, just me, my brother, and my mom. We were at home. And I was supposed to the first round. I didn't go the 4th. So back then it was the first 3 rounds the first day. On the 4 through whatever went the next day. I sat there all Saturday. It wasn't a good feeling, but all I wanted was an opportunity. I felt, yes, I could have the first round, but it also didn't matter because I always felt like the same thing would happen when I got to the NFL. I felt like my talent would show and they wouldn't be able to deny me my opportunity because I was going to do the same thing that I've always done. So all I wanted was just an opportunity for somebody to draft me, and it didn't matter. Yes, I would love to have been first round and been able to enjoy that type of money from being first round, but also it didn't matter because I felt like my skill set and the way I always played was going to show up. And then being able to play would take care of itself.
I think too, in those positions, and maybe this is first round specific, if you get picked top 10, you're getting the money, right? You're getting the payday, the generational stuff, but you're also in a team that's probably really dysfunctional. Whether you can, in your time there, help turn that around or have pieces around you added to turn that around. Sometimes it's almost better to be later picks. You're in a better team, you're playing in bigger stakes, you're in the Super Bowl, you're in the playoffs. So I think there's that back and forth of long-term career versus short-term payday. And I'm sure it's kind of the same as the draft goes on, but I guess maybe less impactful because if you're a first or second round pick, they're going to put a lot more time and energy into making sure you succeed. Where if you're down in those lower rounds, they're maybe more likely to let you go earlier or take less of a.
I got drafted by Jacksonville, and we were really good in Jacksonville when I was there. When I got drafted, I drafted a running back, Fred Taylor. It was hard, but I always felt like my talent would show up. In Jacksonville, and they were making packages and doing all types of stuff. Fred was going to get more opportunities because he was the first round pick, and he got the money, so he's naturally going to get more opportunities than me. But again, I had my opportunities and I always showed up and did what I did with my opportunities all the time. The first round pick is going to get more because they put the money behind them.
Trevor Bowlers was on this show a while ago, and he was in Jacksonville when you were there. He paid you a really great compliment saying that he could tell you the difference of ability. Your ability really showed through there. He said you were just super talented, and against that top level of competition, you really showed through. That's a great compliment from him.
All right, Trev.
Yeah.
Trev, that's good, man. I always just prayed and hoped that at one point in time, my talent was going to be able to not be denied, that somebody was going to give me the opportunity to do what I've always done in my career. And Jacksonville was giving me those opportunities, and I was really shining there and doing great things. I happened to get injured. Even my rookie year, I hurt my foot. I had plantar, whatever it's called, plantar.
Something like that, plantar, yeah.
Like I had that, and I missed, middle of the season for that. But then second year, I blew my knee out. Injury bug happens, and you don't get everything. But before that, training camp and preseason. I was killing folks, not literally, but like just doing very great and shining a bright star down there in Jacksonville. We had a great team, just a great team atmosphere. Coach Coughlin was great. He's an awesome head coach. I never had any problems with him whatsoever. He just demanded you be a professional. And the people that didn't do that, those are the people that had problems. But it was just a great atmosphere down there too. And I was happy to be a part of that. I loved being in Jacksonville and playing with a lot of great players. They were all pulling for each other too when I was in Jacksonville too. I'd be getting tips from like linebackers and D linemen and DBs, just on different stuff I was doing, or routes I was running, or looking at film. Everybody was in it to win. It was a great team culture down there for sure.
I think I was back with the Giants in '99. I think we ran into each other at a preseason game because you guys came up to New York for one of the games.
Oh, that's right. Did come up there.
How long were you at Jacksonville?
2 years I was in Jacksonville. Then like 3 because they released me, but I was still rehabbing and stuff like that. My 3rd year I was there, so I was just rehabbing in Jacksonville. Then I was out of football. So my injury, going back to that, I tore 3 ligaments, torn hamstring, stretched nerve, all in one hit. So the stretched nerve gave me a drop foot. Drop foot is where you can't raise your foot up. I could only push it down, and I couldn't move it side to side. So I walked around with a boot and cane, like a boot that puts in. People walk around with a boot, like in their shoe and stuff. So I had one of those, and it kept my foot at 90 degrees, so I could walk. But I could walk with a boot and cane. From Jacksonville, I moved to California, San Jose, in Fremont area and stuff, and that's where I rehabbed. 3 ligaments, torn hamstring, stretched nerve, gave me drop foot, walk around with boot and cane. I moved to California, or back to California, because that's where I had the original surgery. I really enjoyed the surgical team and trainer I had out there. So I moved from Jacksonville to California to continue my rehab. And then also at the same time, I had drop foot. I didn't know if my nerve going to regrow or anything like that. So I was doing shock treatments to try and get my nerve to regrow. I was out there about a year and a half, like 9 months it took for my nerve to regrow a little bit. And then I could start to walk without the boot. Even to this day, I still have like pins and needles a little bit. It's a little bit of numbness on the outside of my leg. My knee doesn't straighten all the way and it doesn't bend all the way. When I was doing rehab, teams were calling to see if I was going to try and make a comeback. I was never trying to do any of that. I was just trying to walk normal. I didn't think I was going to play or anything like that. But during the rehab process, I got rid of the boot. I started jogging, and then I could run, and then I could cut and do all the things. But I didn't have the same elusiveness or speed that made me who I was. Like I was running 4.27 before the injury. After the injury, I was running which is still pretty fast, but it's not what I'm accustomed to. It's not what I was growing up doing. I was a speed guy. So I went from a speed guy to just being average. That's not going to make it. Teams were calling. I had a workout with Atlanta Falcons one day. I think it was on a Friday. Then the next day I had a workout with New Orleans Saints on Saturday. So New Orleans ended up signing me, and then I was on the practice squad. I had some magic when I was there at New Orleans, but it wasn't enough of the magic that needed to happen for me to be a part of it. Because I didn't have the same gait. I didn't have the same speed. I wasn't pulling away. I wasn't doing all the things that made me different before the injury. So I knew I wasn't going to make it in a sense. Yeah, I was totally different, like back. On totally different mindset too, in the same sense, because it just played a big part in my mental also, because it's nothing that I was ever accustomed to. My whole life and career of playing football, I pulled away from people. I wasn't getting caught. I wasn't getting tackled by a linebacker that ran 5. So it just was totally different for me mentally when I was in New Orleans, and just trying to see if I was able to make the magic happen in a sense. I just knew I wasn't going to make it or continue to keep playing. I had some injuries that happened in New Orleans, but again, it's like I wasn't, like, my knee didn't bend all the way. Like, it didn't straighten all the way. So it gave issues. I had a hamstring on that leg. I had a calf injury on that leg. That type of stuff happened in New Orleans at the same time.
Was that a rare injury?
I was part of some of this new stuff that they do all the time now, like micro picking, and that's when they poke holes in your femur and try to get scar tissue to build up so you have a little bit more cartilage in your knee. None of that stuff was ever heard of back then. I was one of the guinea pigs when that stuff started becoming popular. That's another reason I left and moved to California. They were going to do all this stuff with me out there. When I was in California too, I had to have like scopes done, like clean out my knee. When I was in rehab, I couldn't get my knee to bend. They put me to sleep to try and bend my knee. The therapist I had, the doctor, got a nosebleed trying to bend my knee when I was sleeping. So he got a nosebleed trying to bend my knee, and it still wouldn't bend all the way, like how they bend it and it touches your butt. So it was stuck. So they had to try and break through that. The doctor got a nosebleed from trying to break through. So just imagine I was awake when they were trying to do that before. Bend my knees. Just excruciating pain that I was going through, like during that time. I used to rehab. I forget the fitness facility I was rehabbing at, but it was just tremendous pain that I was going through. But it just wouldn't bend, and even when I went through that surgery and they bent it, it still like froze up, like in a sense, not bending all the way and not straightening all the way too. And again, extensive rehab and everything that you can think of, I tried and did. But again, I just wasn't the same player like when I was in New Orleans, and I knew that was going to be it for me when they released me. I think, again, I had a calf injury, and then New Orleans, they get rid of you pretty quick too. They wanted me to see if I could go in one of the practices because I was out. This is at preseason. They got me to try and just see if you can do 7-on-7 or something. I went and tried it. Did maybe a couple plays. After practice, I got released. They have it on film that I was out there practicing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a cold business.
Yeah, it's cold business. You'd have to sue and do all those types of things.
Who said that? Slutzker or?
Oh yeah.
They said they were in, I think it was New Orleans too, and they're like they were injured.
It's not any. You would have to have a great case, but who really like goes up against the NFL or your teams and stuff like that? You'd have to spend years in court. That's the dark side of professional sports. They'll get you on film and then cut you right away. That was a morning practice. I got cut right after lunch. I was coming back from lunch, you know what I mean, going to my locker or whatever case, and they're like, hey, bring your playbook type of thing. And I was like, what? Unbelievable. That's the pitfalls of professional sports. Tough deal. I wish I would have had a long career. I think I had tremendous talent to do it and play a long time, but sometimes it's just not in the cards. It didn't work for me that way. I just had a injury too soon, like in a sense. I think there's guys that have had similar injuries afterward that were able to continue playing. Medical stuff has advanced since then too. Kudos to them. It just didn't work for me. My NFL career was shortened because of that.
It's a testament to you having this good attitude about that, right? You could really have a different outlook on all those things. At least for me at that age, there's an invincibility factor, I think, that you feel that you're like, top of the world, you got to have that kind of mental strength and confidence to just take on the world, I think, to a certain degree. And then to have something that could materially affect you for your entire life, right? You could have had a limp and a cane and not really came back from that with all those pieces, and just have that like at an instant, okay, now here you were talented, had all this ability, and all of a sudden, oh, okay, maybe you might not be able to walk correctly the rest of your life.
I'd spent years just being mad, just like, why me? Why did I not get my opportunity to do what I wanted to do? I watched other people have great careers and become Hall of Famers. I was right there. I could have accomplished more, just not able to do. But again, I love the opportunity. I love that I was able to make it there. I shined when I was there. The things that I was doing were great. I didn't have the career that I wanted. But again, thankful that I was able to get there. I was able to be a part of great teams there in Jacksonville. Great to be able to be coached by Coach Coughlin at the time and Coach Ingram, who's a running back coach, great coach there. But just to be a part of that stuff. Even playing for New Orleans, they had a lot of Jacksonville people. Some of the front office people from Jacksonville were in New Orleans at that time. So being a part of another NFL organization, even after my injuries, was a blessing. There's not a lot of people on earth that get to play a professional sport. I was one of the people that got to enjoy that, even in like the short period of time that I did.
I understand how you got into training and speed development. Tell us a little bit about coaching and how you ended up in Louisville.
When I got forced retirement, I didn't know what I was going to do. That was my plan. I didn't have another plan. I wanted to play and enjoy a long career and start setting up things from there. I got injured the second year and not being able to do those types of things. After forced retirement, when I was done playing, I didn't know what to do and stuff. So I sat for a year. I didn't really do anything. Just worked out, trying to figure out what I was going to do, making contacts. Was I going to get in coaching? What was my next move going to be? I happened to, at the time, me and my fiance, and we moved to Daytona Beach, Florida. And then I got an opportunity to go to Walt Disney World of Sports. And that's the opportunity I should have never left. I graduated from the University of Iowa. Sports management team down there is like everything from dance and cheer to flag football to the marathons. All that's run through one thing down there. So I was part of that team. But at the same time, I was trying to get into coaching and sending my resume out or contact coaches that I knew. Coach Petrino was the head coach at University of Louisville. He had a running backs coach that came available at the time. So that's how I got to the University of Louisville in 05, 06, I believe, somewhere around there. I thought I wanted to get into coaching at the time, and it was great. We went, I think we were 12-1, won the Orange Bowl. I think the only game we lost was Rutgers that year. Great opportunity, great staff, and being a part of that. The next year, Coach Petrino left almost like the middle of the night. He went to the NFL, to the Atlanta Falcons. That was when left a bad taste in my mouth just on coaching, because you don't know. I was just getting into it at that point, and you don't know what is going to happen. If you're going to have a job, if he's taking you to the next spot, you don't know any of that stuff. So I had a sour taste in my mouth on that, because we literally had a meeting at the University of Louisville right before the coaches convention that everybody goes to. Coach Petrino was like, hey, you guys go down there, represent University of Louisville. Next year, we should win a national championship. We would have done very well the next year too. So we all the coaches, staff, and everything were going to the coaches convention. There was a plane that everybody got on that we were going down to the coaches convention. So the only 3 people that weren't on the plane was Coach Petrino, his brother, and I believe it was the offensive coordinator. So those are the 3 that went to the NFL with him. We found out as a coaching staff, as soon as we got off the plane, the news broke that he was leaving to go to the NFL with the Falcons, that as soon as we got off the plane. So people are checking like their phones and stuff, and they're like, oh my God, this dude like left. And like, you don't know if you're going or he's taking you, any of that type of stuff. So we had guys that literally got off the plane and boarded the next plane back to Louisville. I ended up like staying because I don't know. I'm just getting into coaching and stuff like that. I was down there and saw Diaco and all these other guys that are coaching that I knew from Iowa. And so still had a good time at the coach convention, but didn't know if you're going to have a job afterwards. I didn't like that aspect of it. I was just lucky I didn't have a family at that time. You didn't know what was going to happen. That's the downside of coaching a little bit. They do make really good money at the same time, so it does soften the blow a little bit, but I didn't enjoy that aspect of being that stressed. That's where I pivoted and started getting into performance training and facility management, like high-end facilities. So that's when I started in it had to be 08, somewhere around there, 09 or 08, that I started doing more performance training and coaching and mentoring. So that's been my trajectory for the last 15 years. With performance training, I always felt like I could help athletes become better. When I say performance training, it's a holistic thing. It's not just running faster. I spend a lot of time talking to athletes, like what they're doing and how they're performing and why you're doing this drill or what this drill helps you with and why you're carrying the ball this way or like any of those type of things. So it's a great thing to do performance training as opposed to just strength and conditioning or all those type. I enjoy doing performance training. That more than just like strength and conditioning for a lot of athletes. I was blessed to be a great athlete. I always wanted to pass along my knowledge on my mentality and the things that I did to be at that level. I always felt like I could pass that along to a lot of other athletes and people. And that was another main reason I got into performance training. I felt like, how can I share this knowledge? I would waste it if I never shared it or gave an opportunity to somebody else to get the things that I was doing. Not saying I was perfect at doing all those things, but being able to share how I got to the level that I did. So that's another reason why I wanted to get into performance training. I didn't want to waste that opportunity to help somebody else or help another athlete become better.
I think we see a lot these days where parents are really gung-ho at getting their kids to be high performers in sports, get scholarships and play professionally or whatever all that is. So do you think in terms of sports performance, I suppose it's lifting, it's weights, plyometrics, like what, all these different parts of that. Do you think that's a learned thing, or it's you start at this like baseline and then you can go 30% better or faster or whatever that metric is to gauge that? Do you think that's the case, or is it like, okay, if you do these things, you can build yourself into being that? Does that make sense? How do you think about that?
There are gifted athletes that are born that way, but you can become a better athlete, a more gifted athlete by training. You can become faster by proper training. You can jump higher by proper training. You can do a lot of things with the knowledge and know-how to become better and being consistently doing that too. And then like at a younger age now too, as you see, like things have evolved and athletes have evolved, it's because you can do proper training now at a younger age. It's just like people that do karate, the longer you do it, the more masterful you're going to become doing it. So it's not just like strength and conditioning type of thing. It's not just like lifting weights or any of that type of stuff. If you work on little plyometrics when you're 3 years old, if you continue to do that all the way to what you're a basketball player or whatever case may be, yes, by the time you get to 18 or 19, you're going to be jumping out of the gym. Like with proper training, proper nutrition, all these type of things that happen now. You can project or become better at doing those things at a younger age now. And there's all types of things that are out there, but it truly is true. If you learn how to properly run at a younger age, you can cut down time and efficiency and all those type of things just by proper running. Just football players just run the 40 and stuff. That's why the NFL Combine and things like that, when people do training for the NFL Combine and they go to a fancy place or whatever the case may be, that's how they get their time down. A lot of these guys finally learn how to properly run efficiently in a small time. But if you did that just growing up, it'll be ingrained with you. You wouldn't need it as you, like when you just get faster. A lot of parents don't understand. The people that get it, I mean, they spend time doing performance training and stuff because it's really beneficial to a lot of athletes. I always relate it to karate and other sports like gymnastics. If you do proper performance training twice a week or whatever it may be, is going to be very beneficial down the road for an athlete. But even a non-athlete, learning how to land properly or jump, side-to-side movements, a back pedal or diagonal run or any of those type of things, all those are going to be beneficial for you.
I suppose once you have those general skills, then you build the muscle on top of them too, where you really optimize once you can add the ability to put real force behind it too, right? I think it's funny for me, having a young child, I want her to be able to move generally. It's not like, oh, I need you to play soccer. I want you to be able to just be an athlete, right? We want to be a skier. You want to play tennis. You want to do whatever, right? Just be mobile. So I think that's where I think about those kind of deals. And there's all sorts of things you can put them in soccer and tumbling and whatever else. So I think of it that in those terms. And also, how do I get her into a position of adversity? How do I get her to say, okay, I can overcome that, whether that's school, whether that's work, whether that's any of those pieces, that mental muscle of saying, oh, okay, I just hit some sort of wall. I've got to get that done.
Yes.
That was one of the questions I was curious about hearing your side of it. Is it a movement thing early on when they're growing up and getting them doing that stuff?
Oh yeah. Like performance training, real proper performance training, I would say. It's very mental also at the same time. You learn how to push yourself more than in what you've done before. You learn how to breathe better. You learn how to move better. You learn how to do a lot of different things better, like in the same sense. Like you just become more efficient with doing different things. So I'm a big advocate for performance training for kids and stuff, just growing up. So again, I recommend it to everybody that has kids and stuff like that too. But like even once a week or any of that type of stuff is very beneficial for growing up. And again, it's just mental toughness. You learn how to prepare your body. And in performance training, you learn how to do different things. You learn that, hey, I can keep doing this and learn how to breathe and still perform the activities and things that are required. This can translate into the fourth quarter of a football game. I have the capacity to make sure that I'm listening and taking instruction, and I'm not tired because I've been here before in my performance training. Give an example of football or whatever. Might be doing it in practice. Performance training all those years has already prepared you for any type of situation that you might occur, like during a tough game. So again, like I just big advocate for it all the time.
Maybe that transitions to your son signed with Georgia.
Oh yeah. Talent. He's gonna go to the University of Georgia or play wide receiver there. I'm happy for him. Just being able to play a Division I sport. A lot of people don't ever get to do that. I'm very happy that he's going to be able to enjoy that and also play for one of the top teams in the country. Just hoping and wishing that he does well and gets everything that he can from the experience.
Yeah, we wish him well. It's fun watching all our old teammates, kids do well and grow up. I was with Cliff King this last weekend and see his son and just going through it, right? It was cool. You could tell it was exciting. He was putting in the work, It was maybe reminisce a little bit about back in the day.
I know. It's crazy. Like a lot of our former teammates or kids are doing very well, or they're in college now. Some of these guys are in the pros too. It's neat to see. Oh my God, I can't believe we're at an age where we're seeing all this stuff now.
We got a 5 in front of our number. Yeah, right.
I know. Just turned 51.
Happy birthday on the 17th.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Just enjoy it. It goes fast. These kids grow up so fast nowadays. I mean, we're not getting any younger. Enjoy the moments. If they're able to play in college, any sport or whatever the case, or they just go to college or start a business, just enjoy the kids that you have.
Yeah, I'm excited for my journey. It's been a lot of fun so far.
It's just been great. Great talking to you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I love the podcast. You guys keep doing great stuff, man. Just keep having great Hawkeyes on here. Or I don't even know if you guys have other people's on here besides Hawkeyes or just Hawkeyes.
We've had a few we're tied into Iowa somehow. Tom Arnold last week.
Right.
We have Phil Johnson. You remember him? His trainer at Iowa, and then he's up at Michigan now. So yeah, we've had some people part of the program in some way or connected.
Tom Arnold on here?
Just last Tuesday. That's a wild one.
Is he still acting and stuff?
He just sounds like he's doing bad movies here and there. But.
I saw him at a comedy show down here. That's how we connected. Yeah, he's still going.
I remember he was a big Hawkeye fan. Awesome. Keep doing it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Hoping to have some of the other support staff members too. Maybe secretaries in the football office, managers.
Yeah, it's always great to hear their perspectives and good stories that they have and stuff like that. It's always entertaining to just, oh my God, you thought that or that happened or anything like that. So it's really great to hear all the stories from the support, the trainers or some of the coaches. I've always enjoyed it. Back in Iowa, I see Chuck Long a lot. Our circles are intertwined with different projects. Talking to him about different things from when he was coaching, things like that is awesome take on different things. But I just enjoy that stuff from different people's perspectives all the time.
It's cool to hear the whole stories and just cool to reconnect with everybody. I feel like we didn't quite stay in touch with everyone as much as we should have. So now we're trying to fix that.
Oh, yeah. It's easier now with all this social media and stuff. Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or whatever it's called now. It's easier to stay in touch or get in touch with people and things too. I do enjoy that.
Tavian, thank you. We enjoyed all the memories and thanks a lot for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Hawkeyes till we die.